French fries cost too much money, and I can prove it. In the last 10 years, the price of a medium McDonald's fries has increased 138% and is only starting to accelerate. In just the last 2 years, between July of 2022 and July of 2024, the price of frozen potatoes rose a staggering 47%, taking French fries along for the ride. And while you've probably heard a lot about inflation recently, this is not happening because of inflation. It's a conspiracy, a criminal enterprise, a French fry cartel hell-bent on, and this is a real quote, growing our entire industry beyond our wildest imaginations. A sentiment that sounds kind of frightening, but is, admittedly, probably less frightening when you consider that the president of a company called Potatoes USA probably doesn't have the most expansive imagination. Sorry, Blair. Regardless, I just read this lawsuit about a global French fry conspiracy, and it's probably one of the weirdest legal documents I've ever encountered. So come along with me, and we'll get to the bottom of who is killing America's favorite food. Like any French fry, the story begins with oil. But not vegetable oil or peanut oil, we're talking about Standard Oil.
Okay.
The 19th century behemoth that, for a brief period, controlled 88% of all refined oil in the United States. And it turns out that when you control 88% of all refined oil in the United States,
Make a lot
you
of
can
money.
kind of do whatever you want. You can force other oil companies out of business, you can single-handedly set the price of oil, you can even have the police shoot your union organizers, if that strikes your fancy. Things were not great, and around the end of the century, the United States banned monopolies like Standard Oil from owning that much of a single industry. This, though, is a—
excuse me? What the fuck is— the government can't come in and just break up a monopoly for the benefit of all consumers. This is fucking criminal. I'm sorry, but if there's one thing that I stand for on this stream, it is to dismantle all antitrust enforcement.
pretty well understood idea. Monopolies are not allowed. They're bad, even, and especially, when you turn them into a board game. But just because something is illegal doesn't mean companies won't do it, they'll just do it fancy style. And fancy style, in the case of operating a monopoly, means forming a cartel. The whole point of banning monopolies is to make businesses compete with each other so that they have an incentive to make good products at reasonable prices. But what if, instead of competing, all the different companies decided to work together? If all the bread companies in the world make an agreement to not sell bread for less than $100, and this agreement guarantees that none of them are going to get undercut by their competition, then, well, bread costs $100. This is what a cartel is. Throughout history, there have been lots of these. The Phoebus cartel is famously responsible for making light bulbs around the world worse and shorter lasting. For about a decade, all of Europe's elevators were installed by a cartel. The maple syrup from Quebec is currently controlled by a cartel, as was Swiss cheese for nearly a century. The cartel even—
I feel like if I got to the end of my life and my contribution on this planet was working to make sure that Europe's elevators were more expensive by organizing other elevator makers into a cartel, I would die happy because I've done my part. I've done something, time well spent on this earth.
kind of operates as a cartel. And all of these, like monopolies, are varying levels of illegal, but they're usually harder to get rid of. That, however, is not what's happening with French fries. At least, not exactly. The French fry cartel is a little more sophisticated and probably a lot harder to destroy. The alleged cartel, I should say. And anytime I said French fry cartel earlier in the video, just remember that I said alleged, which is definitely the word that I said. Anyway, the cartel in question is composed of these four companies: Lamb Weston, McCain Foods, the J.R. Simplot Company, and Cavendish Farms.
Okay.
Together, these companies control about 97% of all the frozen potatoes on Earth. And like any normal cartel, you see these same kind of suspicious, coordinated price increases across the entire industry. In February of 2021, McCain Foods slightly increased the per-pound price of frozen potatoes by an amount that was exactly mirrored by JRS and Cavendish. And the same thing happened again in September, starting with Lamb Weston, and the same thing happened again in the following February with all four companies, and then again in April, and then again in May, and then again in July, and then you get the idea.
Interesting.
For the last few years, all four of these companies have kept their prices almost exactly in line with one another, and not a single one has made any attempt to undercut the others. As a result, the price of frozen potatoes has skyrocketed, and all of these companies are making money hand over fist. And here's where things get complicated. there's no evidence to suggest that these companies are directly colluding with each other. No backroom handshake deals or front room footshake deals. Instead, they're, allegedly, doing something very new. A practice called algorithmic price fixing.
Yeah.
What's happening here is that all 4 of these companies have subscribed to a...
I wonder if he mentions RealPage. The way I've seen this is with RealPage and with landlords, where all these landlords, big or small, sign up for RealPage, and then it algorithmically increases or holds steady all of their rents that they charge so that they all collectively can raise the price of rents in an area. I've already talked about RealPage. I've talked about RealPage on this stream many times. Hotels work the same way. That wouldn't surprise me if every hotel in a city worked together. My apartment complex is named in that lawsuit. Really? Is it Graystar?
A third-party program called PotatoTrack. I put up the logo for it here, but it doesn't seem to have any kind of public-facing branding whatsoever. And that's probably because PotatoTrack's entire purpose is, at least seemingly, to create a legal loophole for doing potato-related crimes. How? Well, it's pretty simple. All 4 cartel members feed their commercially sensitive data, like supply costs, sales figures, and marketing details, into PotatoTrack, which then aggregates that data and gives identical reports to all 4 companies, effectively giving each of them the same advice on how they should price their potatoes without any of the companies actually talking directly with one another. And voila, now you have a cartel without actually having a cartel. If this sounds bad, it is, but what if I told you that it was more bad? Because this isn't just happening with French fries. I just picked French fries because I thought it would make for a kind of funny title. No, this is happening with meat, sugar, ride-sharing apps, airlines, hotels, insurance, and yes, even rent. You thought you were clicking on a funny video dunking on overpriced French fries, but I'm about to explain why you're never going to own a house. PotatoTrack exists for rental markets, and it's called RealPage. They're being sued right now for the exact same thing. Landlords all around the country load up RealPage with specific rental prices and lease terms, stuff that they couldn't legally share with one another, and get back reports that are basically just like, here's a bunch of price fixing data that you're not legally allowed to have because it will quite literally ruin millions of lives, but we make it look all pretty with graphs and stuff, so it's probably not even a crime anymore. And that's just kind of how the world works now. Tune in next time for my explanation of the loophole in the US Constitution that can legally turn the United States into a dictatorship. Now, this video really only scratched the surface of the way that data can be used and manipulated to make the world a very different place. But if that's the kind of thing that interests you, I'd recommend checking out this course on data visualization from our sponsor, Brilliant.
Check out Brilliant! Check out Brilliant. Yeah. I think, though, that, yeah, I mean, this is why I liked Lena Khan, was because Lena Khan had, I believe, sued RealPage. I believe the FTC sued RealPage and was like fighting him, but now she's gone. I miss Queen Lena because that shit sucks. I mean, it literally is just, there's so many things with tech where it's like something is illegal and then they just do the same illegal thing but through a computer. And because the government is so slow at figuring out computer, it's like, well, I guess it's legal. It's just like when you underpay an Uber driver below minimum wage. It's like, that's illegal, but it's like through computer. You know, it's not, it's just a bit unfortunate. But anyway, good video.